It's Wednesday night, and that means it's time for the Lamar Thomas Show, featuring the greatest receiver in the history of college football. Just ask them, Lamar Thomas.
I was born in Ocala, Florida. I moved to Gainesville to go to high school. Being recruited probably since the 9th grade, illegally, I might add, by the University of Florida. I still can remember Coach Solinger, Don Solinger, coming out to our practice one day. Here it is, this guy comes out in the University of Miami jacket, and I said, I can't believe that's Miami out here. And, you know, I wanted to go up and say, hey, I'm Lamar Thomas. And actually, I did walk up to him and I said, hey, Coach, I'm Lamar Thomas. And he said, I know. And that was the start of my relationships with the University of Miami.
Another good block, and Toretto lays it out. Touchdown, Miami.
You come down here, you'll be on TV every weekend, dominating. I thought about it. I said, man, where do I sign? Mom, on Saturday mornings, I would wake up and she'd be holding my hand. I thought she was the weirdest lady in the world. But she was holding my hands and she would be rubbing them and saying, one day these hands are gonna make you a lot of money. She was smart.
So now, here he is, the great one, along with co-host Gary Ferman of Canesport.com, Lamar Thomas.
There he is, the great one, on a Wednesday night, the Lamar Thomas Show. We were trying to figure out how many of these we've done this season, and I'm not sure we were able to figure out the exact number. Boy, my screen's going haywire here. I got to figure out what's wrong with that. But whoa, I'm like glowing, Lamar. But anyway, it's Wednesday night. Welcome everybody to the Lamar Thomas Show, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. We got a great show for you. We're gonna have Brian Collins in the house later. We're gonna have Charles Farms in the house later, and looking forward to having those guys join us. But first, Lamar, so much to talk about. Let me start with our sponsors. Thank you so much to Caneswear, once again, sponsoring the show. They've been a sponsor of the Lamar Thomas Show the entire season. And Caneswear is your spot for all your Canes holiday shopping. And we'll be telling you about that here as we go forward. Big specials coming up for Black Friday. The whole store pretty much almost on sale, Lamar, and I know you're locked and loaded with all that info. We'll get to that in a minute. And we also got to thank our other sponsors, the law office of Christine Rosendahl, Esquire, PA, 561-512-6199. The lady in South Florida that will help you out, guys, if you are ever in any kind of jam. And you can call on Christine Rosendahl, Esquire, PA, and Lamar has that little black card that you've seen him show. There it is. He carries around in his wallet, and never needs it, fortunately. But if he ever did, he has it. And if you want one of those little black cards, I'm sure if you call the number that you see on the scroll in the bottom of the screen, and you call them up, hey, I saw you guys on the Lamar Thomas Show. I would love to have one of those black cards for my wallet too, like Lamar. I'm sure they will mail you one. And right. Hopefully you never need it, but you never know. And it's not a bad thing to have in your wallet. So LT, it's Thanksgiving, which means you're with the family with the family right now, right?
Yeah, I'm actually in Gainesville. I'm actually at the hotel right now. My family's over at the house, mom, dad, my sisters. My sister flew in from professional basketball in Turkey, and my brothers, everybody's over there, my kids, my wife, everybody's over there except me because I know it's nice and quiet here. So I can do my show. How about that?
How about that?
My brother's kids, it's just a party atmosphere over there, and I can't wait to get there, but I got to do my show and talk about, obviously, those Canes. So where do we start, Gary? Where do we start?
There, man. It was interesting. You know, I don't personally think Clemson is all that good. I'll be honest with you. I really don't. And I even think South Carolina's got a chance to upset them this weekend. And I wasn't like overwhelmed by those guys, but Miami just couldn't get anything going offensively. They had a chance to keep pace early, and Ja'Cory Brown overthrew that ball to Restrepo, and I don't think they ever recovered from that. It was like that let all the air out, probably not just for the players, but maybe for Josh Gaddis as well, because I thought that was one of his better play calls of the season. People have been tearing him apart. You know, he came out with a little bit of a different look, was loading up on wide receiver sets on the perimeter and trying to create confusion in coverage. And he got Restrepo free, totally uncovered. That's got to be a touchdown, Lamar. And I think when they just couldn't get the ball to go from point A to point B there, I think it was just like a little bit of a letdown. And the offense finished the first half, I believe it was with 9 yards of offense, LT. You're not beating anybody like that. And in almost any circumstance, 9 yards of offense in a game is grounds for dismissal. I mean, like, that's just not a representative college football product. I don't know what Mario is going to do here. The offense has been a problem the whole year from game one. They started getting it straightened out a little bit game 4 or so against North Carolina. I think that was 4. It was 4 or 5. I'd have to go back and count. And then Tyler Van Dyke gets hurt. And now you're playing with Jake Garcia, who implodes. And then you're bringing a true freshman in who in no way, shape, or form it seems like he's ready to play. You know, they eked it out against Georgia Tech. And Lamar, the weirdest thing in the world is that then Georgia Tech goes to North Carolina after getting blown out at home by Miami, a reeling Miami team that barely can generate offense, and then goes to North Carolina and beats the Tar Heels in their home stadium. Makes no sense.
You know, this whole year kind of makes no sense for the Canes because we did not expect these losses. I mean, well, let's be honest. The Clemson game, we didn't know how good or bad they were going to be. You're right, Gary. They're not as great as the Clemson teams of old have been. And we actually caught a break by one of their better defensive linemen not playing in the game. But, you know, this whole year has been crazy. And now the fact that you have the quarterback situations, you have the players being hurt, you have players now possibly talking about transferring the portal. It's just a crazy atmosphere, I would think, down there in that locker room. And obviously that coaching staff is going to have to somehow reel those guys back in and try to figure it out, especially for this upcoming game, if there is a chance for you to go to a bowl game. But like you said, Gary, this year has been crazy. And I'm pretty sure when Mario dreamed of coming back here, this was not the dream. This is considered kind of almost similar to a nightmare.
Mm-hmm. So if Clemson goes into the playoff, and they do still have a chance, if they somehow make that playoff, I'm going to fly to some sports book somewhere because they shut down the Seminole Hard Rock one down in Florida, and there's nowhere to go in Florida. I guess I could find one of those offshores or something, but I don't trust them. I once won money with one of them and couldn't get paid. So, like, I'm done with those people. But I'm telling you, I'm going to find me a sports book somewhere, Lamar, and I'm going all in on Georgia and probably even Ohio State, whoever they end up playing. Because, I just don't think Clemson is really that good. And but 9 yards of offense, and you're an offensive coach, you're an offensive player. Could you watch the game the other day and make any sense of how it had gone so astray to that point, even with a third-team quarterback to let's not even be able to execute a play. I mean, everybody overthrows balls. Okay, you know, whatever. That was that early second play of the game. But Lamar, there was nothing going on really the whole game. I mean, they ended up with less than 100 yards of offense. Like, what has happened? Is Tyler Van Dyke that big of a deal? I mean, they threw for 500 almost against North Carolina. They've lost with the receivers are still the same. I mean, what's going on? What are you seeing out there?
Well, the one thing I can say I see, Gary, almost on every play, there is a breakdown from one person or two people. I mean, you either have a play where it's a good call and the offensive line is getting beat. You have a play where it's a great call and the running back fumbles or misses the hole. You have a play where it's a great call and the quarterback overthrows, or you have a play where the quarterback does not see the blitz coming from. I mean, it's right there in front of him. All he has to do is scan, and you'll see where the blitz is coming from, and you throw it away from it. Throw away from the blitz. You have receivers, you know, especially early. I don't think that they were on the same page as the quarterback, and then they got on the same page, and then Restrepo goes down, a guy who we were counting on, who really hasn't, you know, coming into the year, if you really think about it, really was unknown. And then you have tight ends not playing up to their ability. They've had some decent games, but, you know, when your main tight end is not a good blocker, and, you know, Mallory, you know, he's a Giuseppe, I think that's his name, from Giuseppe. What's the tight end for the Dolphins? He's like him. He's
Gesicki.
Yeah. He's a pass catching tight end who's basically a liability in the run game. But he's a liability in the run game as far as blocking. He misses a lot of blocks out there. So every play, there's just a breakdown on that offensive unit. There's no cohesiveness, and I think it really starts up front with all the injuries that they had. You know, where you're placing guys in there and you're trying to, like a mass unit, place guys that might play in one position. Now you got them playing another position that feel out of place. And, man, these guys on the other side that they're playing against, they don't care that you're not playing in the right position. And they are getting to that quarterback, and they're causing havoc. So, you know, it's just this year for Mario and that staff, to me, it's probably, I wouldn't say probably, has been a challenge. And it's been a challenge. I'm pretty sure those staff meetings have been pretty – I've been in those staff meetings where your stomach is hurting before you go in that staff meeting, anxiety, because you know that head coach is going to give it to you. And that's all part of it. And you're depending on 18-year-olds, 19, 20, 21-year-olds to do their job, and you don't understand why they aren't doing their job. So for that coaching staff and for that team, it goes back to, at some point or somehow, they're going to have to figure this out, whether, like we've talked about earlier, and I'm sure we'll talk about as the show goes on, getting guys out of there that don't want to be there, and trying to add some guys to go along with the leadership or lack of that you need to build that locker room and to build that type of continuity on the team. And because right now I don't even know their identity, but I can say this: the defense, I think, played well enough to win that game.
So it's week 12 and you don't know the identity.
No.
Okay. That probably sums it up all right there. But, you know, you're wearing your XFL coaching hat, so we might as well go beyond that. Okay. Two things you talked about, Lamar, that I want your opinion on just from a coaching standpoint. Will Mallory, okay, fifth year, senior. How is he still not a good blocker after 5 years of working at it? That's the first thing I want to ask you. And then part B of this question is, how do the quarterback and the receivers go into a season, go through a season not on the same page? They've had 9 months to work together on their own with coaches whenever they want to be on the same page. How can they not be on the same page through the course of a football season?
Well, let's stay on the Mallory point. You know, there's some guys that you want them on the field, and you know what you try to do is limit their. You don't try to run to them. You try to run away from them. You knowing what they are, but sometimes the defense kind of dictates. You have to change it up and go towards them. Now, with that being said, I mean he's a better than decent pass catcher, but I would give him an average at best, and that's going to hurt him on the next level. Now, I'm not
terrible.
I'm not Mel Kiper, so I don't make these predictions. I'm just going by what I see, but I just think that's going to come up with some of these scouts when they
there's no
look
doubt.
at it.
He's going to be a late round pick just for that reason, because that's all he's just a pass catching tight end. I just don't get how he hasn't gotten better at it in 5 years. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, he's a high character kid. You would think he works hard at it, but he hasn't gotten much better. His grades are horrendous. Every week, Pro Football Focus, we look at the grades, we pull the grades, and his blocking grades every week are bad.
Well, it's just for him, man, this year, just like I think for Tyler Van Dyke, coming in with such high hopes, and it not being the year that either one of them thought that they would have, and on to the receivers, all that, it starts during the summer. I would say that it starts during the summer, and it starts also with staying after practice, getting that extra work in together with the quarterbacks. For a lot of these guys, man, I just it's kind of crazy to think about it, that these guys aren't really struggling. They're not struggling like we were, and they're not, they can go home to their, they can get in their Teslas, and not saying I'm jealous, but they can get in their Teslas and they can ride off to their condos and stuff like that, where we stayed after because that was all we knew. That was what we saw. That is what we, at the University of Miami, that's what it was about. You practice hard, and then afterwards, you also continue to work hard, and you get it in, and you walk off that field knowing that you got better.
All right, LT, let me bring in the voice of the fan, Bruce Warner, who I'm sure is chomping at the bit to get in on the action here.
He says that every week. I'm chomping at the bit. Hey, look, LT, you just hit the nail on the head. There's no hunger. They don't have to worry about eating. You guys have to worry about eating constantly. And they're not hungry, not food-wise, to be successful. I can't say that about everybody. That's not a fair blanket statement. But, I think you may be able to answer this, LT. Part of the problem with the receivers is that every offensive snap, you don't know what's going to happen with that offensive line. They're not good. So, you take a snap and you got a rhythm pass, 3 steps, throw. Somebody's on your ass already. They're blowing by these guys. And it's not going to be easy to have timing when you're rushing to throw the damn ball because you see people coming at you. And that's been their history the last 2 years. But this year, with all the injuries, the blind side, Zion Nelson's out. Well, that didn't help. That didn't help at all. And so we see at the end of the year, Gary mentioned it last week, Seymour's playing the guard position. A blessing in disguise that Inez Cooper's playing the right guard position. And that kid's a massive kid. And I think he's really helped himself getting ready for next year. But talk about that. The offensive line not being cohesive, it's got to muck up the pass patterns.
Well, I mean, the fact let's start with the quarterback. Yeah. I mean, hell, he's probably gun shy. I mean, I saw a quarterback take a full-on hit in that Clemson game. I mean, full speed. He got smashed. And I was like, holy crap, is he going to get up? And, of course, the lineman who gave up the sack had to help him up, which was 3 in a row, by the way. I know Mariball is a coach that's well-respected. And, he's coached some pretty good offensive lines. And I'm pretty sure that this is driving him nuts. But it's just one of those years where injuries happen, people have to be placed in, but it also shows that we truly don't have depth at offensive line. And again, for teams to be truly successful nowadays, you need some type of depth because injuries happen, things happen, and those guys that are in the background, they get pulled to the front, and it really shows how much how much your team has developed because again,
or
hasn't developed because you're developing players underneath the starters, and they have to be ready.
Yeah. So let me make a blanket statement. I'll throw it out to both of you. This season, in retrospect, and looking ahead, is a blessing in disguise. That he came in and he realized how tough this is going to be and what he has to work with and what he doesn't have to work with and what he has to do. The recruiting class, if it stays, is really good. We're expecting him to do well in the portal. So I look at this, maybe this could have been a blessing in disguise, although we're not happy about 5 and 6. Your thoughts?
I think you're right. This is, I mean, it can't help but be anything else. Hell, fucking suck. So, I mean, so, you know, it's just one of those things where I'm sure Mario, other than signing that check, you know, he was not thinking it was going to be this bad. And to walk in that building, to see what they were left with, and knowing that there were no true leaders on the team. Also, that locker room, you know, he found out very quickly. I mean, when you lose a game early on, that Middle Tennessee State game, man, that was heartbreaking. I don't know if that might be one of the worst losses I've seen at Miami in a long time, because that team went to crap after that win. I mean, it's kind of like FIU when they beat us in the New Orange Bowl. They couldn't win a game after. They haven't won a game after. I don't know what the record is now, but as far as for the morale of that team, they tried to piece it together. But one thing I can tell you, in losing, you find out a lot about these kids, and I think that's what Mario. As I watched some of the clips of him talking about parents and things like that, you're finding out who really wants to be at the University of Miami and who's in it for the long haul. You know, and I think that's why he came here. I think he came here for the long haul. He signed a long deal. I think that he wanted to come back home. He could have stayed out there and got all the Nike gear he wanted, maybe some Jordans too, but he decided to come back home for a nice paycheck and put together a staff and try to get this thing turned around. Obviously, this year hasn't gone the way he wanted to, but like you said, this could be that blessing that, okay, now we can kick some of these guys out.
Well, one quick follow-up. Going into this game Saturday, 6 kids have walked out the door already. What's the morale in that locker room? Do you have any clue? You've never known who has ever gotten
it. They're being smart. They're going to the portal. There's no point in them playing Saturday and taking a chance of getting hurt.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's like a kid sitting out the bowl game. You know, just they're looking out for themselves, and you know, you can't really fault a kid for that, because if your head coach or your position coach gets a better deal, he's gone too. You know, so I mean, everybody has some type of selfish bone in their body, but you know, it is what it is. Go ahead and do your thing, and we wish you the best. And let's see if we can get 5 more guys in here who want to be here.
Well, and the thing is, all 6 of those guys, they were going to be going to the portal no matter what. Even if it wasn't their choice, they were going to be sent to the portal.
Right.
There's another 20 at least to go. I mean, it is going to be insane on Sunday and Monday of next week when they start having their exit meetings over there in the Schwartz in the Schwartz building. It is going to have an
wait, Gary. It might not be next week, man. We still compete. We might be able to beat.
No matter what, they're going to have regular season exit meetings because the portal opens December 5th, Lamar.
That's true.
And those guys going to the portal are going to need to be ready to go on December the 5th. So there is going to be Judgment Day. I wrote about it today at Kingsport.com. There's going to be Judgment Day coming this week, and it's going to be unlike anything we've ever seen before. I mean, there's always 1 or 2 guys that leave after every season. Lamar, my estimates are like 28 this year are going to be go, and then there's going to be 10 graduates. I think they are getting ready to flip 38 roster spots.
Wow.
Really 39 because they got 1 in their back pocket. 39 roster spots on this football team by the spring, probably, I guess, by, most of them by spring practice. or a lot of them by spring practice. And this is going to be, that's almost a half a football team, Lamar. This is going to be a whole new deal come next fall.
Well, that's what I'm thinking too. But I'm thinking about that culture, man. That culture in that locker room. Like, you're going to have to figure out again who are going to be the leaders. Who are the leaders? Because you're going to have guys coming in from different programs, and they might be good players, but what is that other program doing over there? And what are their goals and all this other stuff you're going to try to have to blend together to make a great year. But it's going to have to start with the foundation. I mean, maybe we put Alonzo Highsmith's locker, take him out of the coach's locker room, put him in the locker room, put Ed Reed's locker in there, put Patty's locker in, Roland Smith, put all those guys that play there, say, bump it. You got to get out the coaching locker room. You go in there with those guys and you teach them about culture in that locker room. And
Alonzo has been doing a little bit of that.
Yeah.
You know, he's got a group of kids that he's working with in different ways and stuff, and he's trying to have an influence on that aspect of the program. He's also heavily involved in evaluating the kids in the transfer portal.
Definitely.
Which is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can't whiff on as many of them this year as they did last year. It helps to have somebody with his background given that first look, given a thumbs up, thumbs down, at least on the initial layer of evaluation. I think that's a big deal. And really, when you're bringing this many kids in, doesn't it also, Lamar, give Mario a chance to kind of shape the culture,
Well, it does. I mean, it's one of those things where, as kids see it, they're like, dang, man, Mario got rid of, or, Mario ain't playing around. Coach Crispo ain't playing around, man. We got to tighten up. Some of these kids are going to say it was their decision to leave. But I think ultimately we know, and they'll know, the team will know.
I think they would love it for it to play out that way.
Right.
What coach wants to be publicly on the hook for dismissing a kid? It's like they'll do it if they have to, but they would love for the kids to take the initiative, and they will give them a chance, I'm sure, to do that.
Well, I know one guy that enjoyed it was Jimmy Johnson. He loved being on the hook for dismissing guys.
Did he?
Gary, how many recruits can they bring in? Is that limit now off? There's no cap?
No cap, because the only cap is the 85 scholarship limit.
That's it.
So they could bring in 25 high school kids, 26, 27, 28, whatever they want, man. And then they can supplement that with transfers up to the 85 scholarship limit.
Wow. That's amazing.
So next year the team's going to be either young or new players for the most part. They're going
to have to get a mix.
They got to get a mix.
They can't just take all freshmen. You want a lot of freshmen, but they got to get some juniors and seniors to balance it out. All right, Lamar, before we move on, let's take a moment to hear from our friends at Caneswear, and then we'll tell everybody a little bit about those the Black Friday specials that are coming up this week.
Welcome to Caneswear. Family owned and operated since 2010, Caneswear has all latest merchandise for the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Inter Miami Soccer, and more. Come visit us at our store in Davie on University Drive, just south of I-595, or online at Caneswear.com. Caneswear, the spot Miami fans shop.
Give it to us, Lamar. What's going on with Black Friday shopping at Caneswear?
All right. Well, I got this email because they have about 1 million people that they email almost all the time. But I got an email. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. We wish you and your family a happy, healthy Thanksgiving. We're thankful you are a part of the Caneswear family. Thank you for supporting our small business. Starting at midnight tonight. Whoop, whoop. They got a Thanksgiving sale, Thursday and Friday only. Apparel on sale. Headwear, footwear, Thursday and Friday, 2-day mega sale. Miami Hurricanes gear, 40% off. Holy gamoly. Miami Dolphins gear, 20% off. Florida Panther gear, 20% off. Inter Miami, 40%. Miami Marlins, 20%. And Miami Heat, 20%. Let me say it to you again. Miami Hurricanes gear 40% off, man. You better get on in there. And let me tell you about the hours. The hours Thursday, obviously they close. Everybody got to eat their food, enjoy their Thanksgiving. I was going to say turkey, but some people don't eat turkey. Friday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. are the hours. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And Sunday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Check it out, guys. Again, it's a 2-day mega sale. Miami Hurricanes gear 40% off. You might be able to get one of these shirts like this. This is one of my favorite shirts right
That's a great shirt.
Yeah, I like this shirt. I'm gonna wear this
I'm
wear this on the golf course.
Yeah,
if I can get out there.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you, when your season's over, you could take your XFL paycheck and blow the whole thing on the 40% off Kingswear stuff.
Nah, I got too many kids, dog. Too many kids.
But the store's great, and people should go out there and buy these things. Look, this is a hell of a deal. And Miami's coming back. We're not going to sit here and keep doing this. Next year be different. I have a lot of confidence in Mario and
stock up on your gear.
Although not the entire staff, because I'm still stuck on that OC.
Yeah. Stock up on your gear.
All right. Well, hey, we got a guy in the lobby that's leaning back on his couch, just taking in the greatness of this show. And he hears that there's 39 or so scholarship openings that are going to be up for grabs. And he's saying, man, can I make a comeback? I'm ready. I'm ready to play. And that, of course, is the great Ryan Collins. And
look at you, man. Look at you.
What's up, guys?
What's up, Ryan?
Only RC. Wow. I think this is the first time we've had a guest to come on the show laying back on the couch. We've had guys outside. We've had guys inside. We've had guys at bars. We've had guys in snow, but never a guy leaning back, chilling, enjoying his life like this man, RC. RC, how you doing, man?
I'm good. What's up, LT?
Appreciate you coming on the show, man. We're just, we've been trying to get you on for a year or so, and we finally were able to capture, and we appreciate you coming on. You've always been a stand-up guy, and one of the first questions I ask every one of our guests, you being a Miami guy, being from South Florida, why did you come to the University of Miami?
Well, for me, there's a situation where I was either going to go to Syracuse, East Carolina, or Miami. All those guys were playing quarterback. They had a chance to go to the league. So I was like, man, if I can go here and play, I got a shot to go make it big time. That's the thing, LT. That everybody went to Miami thought they could go play in the pros, right?
Yeah, that's true. And so you, in your whole, the fact that you turned down those schools, why'd you turn down Syracuse? You didn't like it being cold up there? What?
Hey, man, when I went up there, honestly, I saw East Carolina and Syracuse, and they kept telling me, they're like, University of Miami, you might not play. They don't want to play a black quarterback, whatever, this and that. Shoot, I looked at it like at Syracuse, East Carolina, they didn't have a black quarterback that went to the league at the time. And they started one of East Carolina and Syracuse for the last 10, 15 years before that. So that didn't make sense to me.
And so with that being said, they're saying, we all heard the negative talk when we were in our, recruiting against Miami. But, what was it that truly made you say, you know what, screw that, man. I know more about this program than you. I'm going to go to Miami.
Well, for me, I just had confidence in myself. You know that. So when I got there, I just said, man, if I can play, I can play. If I can't, I can't. If I can't play, I'm going to be realistic with myself. And if they want me to change my position, I'll do it. But if I could play, I'm like, man, they couldn't tell me that. So I went there and I saw what they had. I'm like, shoot, I can play.
Ryan was always confident. Ryan was always confident. Listen, I knew because I used to talk to him and go to his house. He kept on saying, I'm going, and I don't give a damn. I'm not switching positions. Right, Ryan? That's exactly what
100%.
happened.
Well,
100%.
Ryan, now, you and I had some talks your freshman year. Can you tell the people what I told you?
Hey, man. LT made up the name Doug Weary for me because when we got there, they had another quarterback that was like really highly recruited. His name was Allen Hall. And when I saw him, I'm like, man, I saw him on tape. I'm like, man, this guy is garbage. And I'm just telling the truth. I'm like, this guy is garbage. When I got there, he was traveling. And, when I went in, I mean, I would make plays all the time. LT used to make me throw them all the time. He's like, man, if you gonna play, you're gonna learn how to throw to me. So I had to learn how to throw to LT. K-Dub took me under his wing. I see a bunch of other guys. So I just learned, man, and went there and I just played. So I went there and I worked hard. I went at it, and I hung out with the older guys, and they helped me, and that's what helped me do what I did.
Well, I told you better not switch. I said no, man. I said,
Yeah.
man, you bump that. You're not gonna let somebody. You're a good quarterback, man. You work out. I caught passes from you in practice. I felt like you were like a little brother to me, and I felt like you being a quarterback that was different than those other guys, and skin color too. I felt a lot of pride in seeing you back there lining up, and I just felt like, hey, anytime I could get in there with you to help you, I wanted you to succeed. And I think that's like a lot of us. We took you under our wings. I mean, Gino was our quarterback, but after that, there was a lot of guys we felt like you were better than.
I mean, I know for a fact you took me under your wing, and I know it was funny because AC used to be on me all the time too. And we used to just go back and forth, and I used to throw to you guys all the time, and you guys used to help me. Cobra head, I mean, it was a lot. So, I just learned a lot from you guys, and I went out there and I just kept working hard. And the one thing I did do, wherever Gino went, when he used to watch film, I watched everything he did. So, I mean, the coaches didn't help me at first. They were trying not to help me. So, they really thought, I remember Pete Garcia used to be on me all the time because he used to be on me. I'd be like, man, what are you talking about? He used to tell me he'll never be an AD or anything, and he used to mess with me. He used to go back and forth. I'm like, man, Pete, I'm not listening to that crap, man. You want me to leave, I'll leave. But I said, I'm not going to come here. You guys aren't going to give me a fair opportunity to play.
See, and that's one of the things people don't realize, that, being a Brown quarterback, you at that time you were fighting an uphill battle. I can remember this, being a high school freshman at Gainesville Buchholz, being told by the football coach, this is pre-Michael Vick, I was too athletic to play quarterback.
Yeah, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
And you know who they put at quarterback? The guy whose mother was paying the booster bill.
Correct.
Okay, so that's why for me personally, man, I wanted you to succeed, and we were all pulling for you, and you had some great games. I remember watching games, you and Chris T and all those guys. What was it like when you got your shot? What was it like?
Well, shoot, when I got my shot, Coach Harrison used to tell me every week, he's like, man, if we're not doing this or that, I'm going to put you. We're not doing this or that, I'm going to put you in. And I remember playing against Georgia Southern. Because, I mean, even before I started against Georgia, not started, but even before I came in against Georgia Southern, when we used to go in practices, I used to rip up practice. And Coach Harrison would take me out. So, I mean, it didn't make a big deal to me. I'm like, man, if they're going to play me, they're going to play me. Eventually it's going to happen. So,
we lost him.
Because I remember the next week after that, we played Florida State. And I didn't start, didn't play, we lost. And then the next week after that, LT, I got player of the game ball 4 weeks in a row. I don't know if that ever happened. So I got the game ball 4 weeks in a row. And then the one game that I didn't get the game ball was against Memphis, and I threw for 390 yards, threw 3 touchdowns, and ran for 2. And they gave it to Cobra, who had 190 yards receiving. And I never seen that happen before in my life.
Now, so Coach Harrison, for me, he was one of those guys you could did you feel like you could always go to him and talk to him? Because I felt like that.
Well, once at first, the coaches didn't really give me an opportunity. I was there with Coach, who was the OC the first year before Olsen? I forgot his name. Coach Bratt. Coach Bratt didn't give me the time of day at first. I guess he knew he was leaving.
Right.
Just after that, Coach Olsen came in, and he gave me a little bit more time. Coach Olsen was on me hard, but it ended up helping me. But me and Coach E were good, man. Once he found out that I really could play and everything else, and he saw my character and my personality with the team, like getting those guys like Sapp, Stu, some of the other guys that they really had a hard time with. Those are my boys, Rohan, all them.
Wait. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. So here was your roommate. Here was your room. There was Warren Sapp, Rohan Marley, and James Stewart.
Well, it was me, Rohan. It was me, Sapp, and Rohan at first, and then I ended up rooming with Stu when I got off campus.
Wow.
So whenever they had like issue with them, they would talk to me like I was like I remember Ryan McNeil used to mess with me all the time, and he'd be like, "You need to talk to Sapp." I'm like, "Man, what you want me to say to him? Sapp a grown man." You guys are grown, man. What you want me to say to him? Like, nah, because Ryan McNeil used to call me namesake. He'd be like, "Nah, namesake, you need to go get with Stu. You get with Sapp. You need to sit down and talk to him because they're not gonna keep going for this fair." I'm like, "Man, I have no clue what you're talking about."
Not only were you worried about your own playing time, you had to make sure you were talking to those other guys
on a regular basis. I remember
Did you play
Coach Shannon used to
for
tell me
Butch
all the time.
also?
You said what?
Ryan, did you play for Butch also, or just Dennis?
No, I played for Butch my senior year.
All right, so one of the guys here, this Jason guy, he wants to know what the difference was playing for Dennis.
I mean, it was a 9-day difference. Coach Erickson was a player's coach, and if you played for him, he had your back. All you had to do is if you showed up in big games and you prepared, did what you had to do, you could do whatever you wanted to do with Coach Erickson. When Butch first got there, he was trying to prove a point. Mm-hmm. So our senior year was like that was just a year for him to like prove a point and just throw the seniors away. And that's basically what he tried to do. But he couldn't really do it because the team didn't really follow Butch that first year. Butch had to get his guys in there. So, I remember I got hurt my senior year. And I messed up my shoulder the third game. I couldn't play anymore. Butch made me travel because I was basically the quarterback's coach. Coach wasn't coaching the quarterback. He was supposed to be the coordinator, but he wasn't coaching the quarterbacks at the time. Clement and Covington came to me for everything, and they had me trying to compete with them.
Wow. That's something that the viewers didn't know. I mean, and so Butch basically was just throwing away the seniors to try to build up. Now, weren't we on probation then? Or did we go on probation then?
No, we didn't go on probation until we were supposed to go to the bowl game. And then they put us on probation. We put ourselves on probation.
That's right. That's right.
That was the old.
And then I think the next year after that they went 5 and 6.
They did.
Yep.
So that's kind of similar to what Mario's dealing with now, except it wasn't the probation thing. But it's kind of like when Butch got here. He had to gut this, and now Mario's doing it, and everybody's bitching and complaining. Which no one's happy about losing. But I think this is a blessing in disguise. I said it before. I mean, I've talked to you off the air. I think Mario's got a lot of work ahead of him, but he's doing it. He has no other choice but to purge this team.
But you don't know, like with Mario, like I know with Butch, they said he gutted the team, but how you gut the team when you got like Kenny Holmes, Kennard Lane, you go 5 and 6 with those guys. Those guys first round picks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I understand. You talk about you gutting the team with those guys like that, they first rounders, and then you coming back like with Mario, you don't know what Mario has because it's in this NIL era and with these kids, for me coaching everything, you don't even know what you're dealing with. I don't care if you get new kids in, you have no clue what you're dealing with.
Right. That's what Lamar said before. These kids, they don't have what you guys had in here. They didn't have it. They don't have that fire. They're not hungry. They got money. They got food. They got places to live. It's not the same.
I talked about
it's the social media, man.
Yeah.
It's the social media.
I talked about before you came on the air, Ryan, the summers that we spent together. That when you build the camaraderie, you build the friendships, you build because you're struggling. But you're also working. You're working hard to build your craft, to get better. The summers were hard, and they were hard too because we didn't all have. I mean, a lot of guys leaned on you because you were a local guy. So your family, your mom and dad, they took care of a lot of us. I mean, but that's how it was, But now these kids today, like I was saying earlier, they're going to their condos on the beach, because they can afford it.
I remember you guys told me during the summer. I remember the first year I went to second summer session. I remember today they're like, we go to summer school. I'm like, what are you talking about? We go to first and second summer session because what we did, everybody had some type of job or something during the summer. Mm-hmm. And then they had certain times they worked out. And I knew at 3:30, whatever time, it was at least 3 times a week, we would throw a route. Mm-hmm. We had basically our own one-on-one session. We would throw a route. That's after we ran all those crazy 200, 100, quarters. Then get out there, and then we had to run the stations. Then after that, you worked out in between. Then the next thing you know, they're like, all right, we're going to run routes. So I'm like, this is an all-day thing. This is after going to summer school or finding some time to work or do something. That's just what we did. And that was part of it.
Yeah.
And you all did it, not just you guys. Everybody was doing it. It wasn't just the quarterbacks and the receivers. People were working their asses off to get better.
Yeah, that was all part of it. And I mean,
That's
and then
all
if you didn't do it, like people are looking at you crazy because if you got on the field, then you're going to be on the bench, and then next you know the coach is trying to run you out of there.
Right. It was peer pressure. That's what we kept on saying, LT. You guys coached yourselves. You forced everybody. And if you were an outcast, if you didn't do it, now it doesn't matter because this one's going here. As Gary would say, this one's going here. This one's got NIL obligations.
Hold on, Bruce. I want to, this crayon writer, he says, so NFL players aren't hungry. I think it should make it easier to focus on football when you have a little money. People aren't getting as much money as you guys act like. Condos on the beach, come on. So let me explain something to you, crayon writer. We were damn near poor, okay? We were poor, and we struggled, but we became closer. And yeah, these guys are getting money. Have you not seen their deals? They're getting money. Now, it might not be the whole team. Well, actually, you know what? Didn't they have a deal last year where everybody got paid? I mean, they're getting money. And
3 years in a row.
And on top of that, they're getting the cost of living down here in South Florida. They're getting money, okay?
Yep.
So they're struggling like we struggle. So they're not NFL players. First of all, they're immature. They're not mature enough to handle being able to. When you're an NFL player, you're basically going to work without going to work, okay?
Correct.
You got to get yourself up every day to go work out and do what you have to do to get better every day without anybody saying, come on, man, let's go. That's what an NFL, because yeah, he's already getting paid, all that other good stuff, but that's a different mindset. That is not a college mindset. These kids today, crayon writer, are immature. They can't focus. Like, we were hungry because we didn't have anything. Nothing.
Hey, Lamar, you got to tell how much did they give us on the weekend?
$35.
$35
on the weekend, bro.
I think when I got there was 63. Now it's for Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, and I think they gave us one meal at the school. It was $63 whole dollars for the whole weekend.
We had 35. You couldn't even take. I love some Wendy's across the street, but hell, I had to go to Burger King for the 2-for-1. I mean, hey Ryan, let me ask you this, man. And I know you show up to some of the games and you come and say hello to the guys and you're there enjoying yourself. When you watch this quarterback play this year, kind of give me a couple words about quarterback play in general as far as all three of those guys. Kind of sum it up.
Well, I don't know what the plan is with any of the guys. Like, I just know, like, who's the first guy? I forgot his name. He was actually pretty good. He's supposed to be a first-round pick. Say his name. What's his name?
Tyler Van Dyke.
Tyler Van Dyke, TBD.
Van Dyke, I think, had, like, his mechanics, I think, were bad. But this kid could throw a football. But I don't think he understands the offense. So he's confused. He's playing slow. Garcia, I don't know why Garcia is there. Then with the Williams kid, they got him running around every time he comes in the game. You know what he's going to do. They take him out sometimes and have the Garcia kid come in and throw the ball, who can't throw, as well as the Williams kid. So then you just rounded. So I don't know what their plan is, what they're doing. I have no clue.
Hey Ryan, I said this earlier.
Neither do they, Ryan.
Ryan, I said this earlier. I said the word identity. I don't know what their identity is on offense.
I have no clue. I don't know, because 1 week you come in, the beginning of the year, they're trying to run, I guess, some power sets where they're trying to pound. And I remember, I think I was telling you this, LT, when they were playing, who was it, Bethune-Cookman, and they struggled.
Mm-hmm.
I said, we're running the ball on Bethune, but we're just making guys miss. But it wasn't sound what we were doing.
Mm.
Then the next thing I know, we're trying to throw the ball some. But then I'm like, what are we doing? Then after a while, after that, I said, let me just go drink, man, so I don't get frustrated.
Hey man, if I didn't have to go in that box with Gary, I probably would have done the same thing.
I'm looking at this because I'm like, you remember me, you, and AC watched the game in my house. We watched Texas A&M, and I'm looking. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, we don't score any points. Like, what? Last week we had 97 yards of offense.
Yep.
9 in the first half.
I'm like, what are we doing? So we had junk yards at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Well, there's problems everywhere, Ryan. You know, the quarterbacks have problems. The offensive line is abysmal. The receivers haven't really stepped up. And the tight ends, you know, Arroyo got hurt early. That's an athletic, big kid that can catch and stretch the field. But they don't have a lot of firepower, that's for sure. And the offensive coordinator's not helping them at all. They can't do anything.
But I mean, they're putting the all on one guy, saying the offensive coordinator. Hey, man, that goes everywhere. That's coaching across the board. You can say whatever you want to. So if the offensive coordinator not getting stuff across, the coaches should be arguing to fight with each other. Something wrong because they're losing. But you telling me these kids, nobody's good at any position? Defense not playing good.
I know.
Play decent.
They play good sometimes. Yeah. So so you telling me, so that's all on the kids? Don't get me wrong. I think half these kids are idiots, to be honest, because they're social media kids. They all think that somebody owes them something. They're entitled and everything else. But these kids, you telling me, so all these kids are bad? So how does Alabama do it? How does Georgia do it? We get the best kids in the world, supposedly. We're here in South Florida. Everybody wants to come play at the University of Miami. So all the kids can't be that bad. We got that much worse than when Manny left?
Wow. You know, speaking of being a coordinator, Ryan, you were a coordinator at Flanagan and you were a coordinator at St. Thomas.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a game where you had 9 yards in the first half?
I don't remember that. That was tough. We struggled with a couple games, but like not to have any yards, we might not have scored, but we moved the ball. It's hard not to move a ball in the game. You have game plans. Usually your first drive, you're going to get 40, 50 yards in the first drive because you're scheming the team.
You should, yeah.
Well, they would have had more than 40 had they had Ja'Cory Brown throwing that pass to Restrepo. Even if he threw a high pop, he would have had a touchdown. He threw a line drive over his head.
Ryan, let me ask you this. As a quarterback, if you've been standing, let's say you've been standing there the whole year watching, and then you finally get your chance. Do you think you're a little eager, anxious, or I mean, how long does it take for the game to kind of slow down? It probably all depends on how much you kind of studied the game, right?
Well, I mean, I always had to be prepared. So when I went in the game, for me, the game was slow because I got a chance to watch and see what they're doing. So I'm like, man, you can see, you're like, when you're watching a game from a quarterback, you're watching it like you're a coach. So if you're prepared, when you go in the game, usually as a backup or anything, you're going to come in, you're going to do better at first because you can see everything that's going on. You can see it's right there on the side. So you should be really like a coach on the sideline saying everything that's going on. So when you get in, you're prepared.
Okay, here's a good point. We brought this up earlier this year. When you're game planning, when you and the coach are sitting down game planning, as a starting quarterback, don't you guys talk about what plays you guys both like? And you kind of make
that. Well, when I played, they told me what to run. They didn't give me the opportunity to do that. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. I didn't get that type of help. I know Gino sat down and did that with him. Frank, they didn't really trust Frank as much to do that. Not saying good, bad, or ugly, whatever. But with me, I didn't get that opportunity. They told me what they wanted me to run. They didn't ask me.
You couldn't check off at the line of scrimmage?
Oh, no, I checked off.
Yeah, you could check off.
I could check off, but it's different when you're going into the game prepared, where you got these certain things you want to run down at when you know what you want to do. That's different. Right. That's totally different. Like when I was in high school, when I coached high school, I would get my quarterbacks and I ran certain stuff and I said, what do you like? What don't you like? If he didn't like it, I'm throwing it out because it's not going to work.
Right.
I never got that opportunity. I was told you run this and I had to figure it out.
I would imagine that Tyler Van Dyke sat there and said, no, I got the yell, no, I don't want to run any of these plays. You know,
but you don't know.
They hadn't even talked to the offensive coordinator going into game 3 or 4. That's what they said, Ryan.
But Bruce, you got to remember that. That's the same thing that happened to me with when Butch got there. They said we're going to come in and they're just going to change. We ran a whole Big Ten offense when Butch got there, and they started showing us film on Troy Aikman and Dallas and everything. And I'm looking like, what are we doing, man? We got this half these kids, so we just come in there just changing everything. And then I guess when Chud eventually came to coordinator, he kind of did a little bit of everything because, Chud's good at what he does. But at first, it was Coach Coker. Coach Coker, I was in there. I was basically coaching him.
I believe that.
But you got to understand. You got to learn, like what Coach Erickson and Coach Olsen, those guys. Lamar would tell you this. You had to be a coach as a quarterback. You had to understand what's going on. If you did not understand what's going on, you could not play in that system.
Right. Right. Of course. Now you're really supposed to be the leader. I'm imagining if Van Dyke comes back, guys, he's the leader, at least on the offensive side of the ball. Would you think so, Lamar? Or because of what he's done this year, he's not a leader anymore? I don't really know who the leaders are.
Well,
he didn't play as bad as the other guys.
Well, but he was hurt. He got hurt, and
he was hurt.
What really was bad for me was watching him try to go back and play hurt, because then it just got worse,
Yeah.
And if I'm him, I'm just trying to come back healthy as possible, not be out there. If you're not 100%, just let it go, because all you're doing is you're hurting your team too, because that couple plays he came in against Florida State, he really hurt himself and he hurt the team because he couldn't go.
Well, but there's so much pressure on him to succeed, and of course he was having a bad year. You can't blame him for that. He wants to win so badly that he put himself in a position where he could have gotten hurt because he wants to help the team. That's why I admire this kid.
Hey, but I got a question for you. Was he as bad as the other two?
No.
I mean, whatever he did, he wasn't that bad. He looked a whole lot better than the other two. At least we had a chance in the game when he played.
Well, that one last play when he fell on his face and threw the ball into the dirt, he wasn't as good as them on that one. But
all right, so Ryan, on this kid, Ja'Cory Brown, great athlete, big kid, can run. He's got an arm, but he doesn't have any accuracy. Is that something that's fixable in this offseason, or is this going to take a couple of years?
But how do you know he's not accurate? I mean, he's a freshman. So the biggest thing is they say he's not accurate. They don't let him sit back and throw the ball. Everything he's doing is running around, getting hit. Then next thing you know, he's throwing everything on the run. When did he ever get a chance to drop back and throw the football?
Well, yeah,
so you don't know that
he had a chance to hit Restrepo. He had a chance. The kid was wide open.
He was pretty consistent. He was pretty consistently like that, Ryan, all through spring and fall.
Yeah.
I think a better way of looking at it is how much can he improve from where he is now? I think is the better issue. You were a college quarterback. How much did you improve from freshman to junior years, and what is reality?
But the thing is, like, I was always super accurate, and they lied and said that I wasn't accurate.
I know you were.
And Lamar can tell you this. I used to pitch, so my dad used to make me pinpoint and throw balls at a certain area. So he had to be able to pitch and do everything else. So people said I couldn't throw. So when people said this kid can't throw, I don't know if I can believe it or not, because that's what they say about black quarterbacks. You can't throw.
That's an issue for sure. Like, I was at a lot of those practices and I saw it with my own eyes, and I know I was thinking, like, I don't know, like, they had a couple freshman quarterbacks coming in at that point in January, Jaden Rashada and Emory Williams, and nobody knew that Jake Garcia was going to implode the way he did. And I'm thinking, man, like, all these kids are coming in much more ready right now as passers. And I'm thinking, man, I don't know if he's ever going to be able to play here. But people like bristled at that opinion. I mean, there's a lot of what you're talking about when it comes to young quarterbacks, and especially young black quarterbacks. And, to me, like, you look at this kid, he's like 6'4", 6'5". He's as athletic as you could ever want. Like, if he could ever develop as a passer, you have a potential Vince Young there.
But think about it.
Or Doug Williams, but this kid can run. But he's big like Doug was.
So when I came to school, let me tell you, none of those guys were as athletic as I was. And LT will tell you that. None of them.
I agree. I remember.
We know that.
But the first thing I did when I came in, they were trying to tell me to run. I would look at them like I was crazy. Everything I did, I threw the ball from the pocket. Yeah. Everything. Because I would tell them I'm going to throw the football. Everything I did, I threw the ball from the pocket. Because you know what? If you can't throw the ball from the pocket on rhythm and on timing, you cannot play quarterback.
Correct.
This new thing and everything they're doing with the RPOs and all, that's all great. But if you cannot throw the ball from the pocket and make decisions ahead of time from the pocket, all the athletic stuff goes out the window because these guys are going to game plan and hit you in the mouth.
Yep.
So the first thing you got to do is throw the ball from the pocket. If you can't throw from the pocket, you have no chance on rhythm and on timing. Because if you can do that, then the team's in trouble. Because you could throw the ball from the pocket and do all this other stuff. These kids are dumb now. Throw the ball from the pocket, do what you have to do, then you have a chance to be like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, those guys like that. But if you can't throw the ball from the pocket at first, then how are you going to scare the defense?
Yeah, and Ryan, what if you come in as a true freshman and you can't do it the way you need to be able to do it? Can you develop that skill, or is it the kind of thing you either have it or don't have it?
Hey man, I think you kind of have it or you don't have it. You can get a little bit better. Like look at Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts cannot throw a football like that. Now he can throw a football. His mechanics are much better and everything, but it took him like 2 or 3 years to get to that point. These guys have to do it. Like there's no excuse now. All the 7-on-7s and everything they're doing, like I don't understand how you can't throw a football.
If I remember correctly,
I think this kid has a tremendous upside.
Yeah.
Gary, I think he's got a tremendous upside, but if he
can
hard,
develop as a
like
passer, he's got to be able to do what Ryan just said, Bruce. He's got to be able to stand in the pocket and deliver a
but I'm not throwing him under the bus. I think this kid has a big upside if he works at it.
Well, talking to Frank Ponce, I think I said this last week. Frank Ponce said that in practice, they make him stay in the pocket. They want him to develop, and they know he can make a lot of throws, but they want him to stay in the pocket, and they also know he can run, but they want him to stay in the pocket to get used to it. And so sometimes it's almost where he's like looking around like, why are you making me stand? And he's like, you got to stay in the pocket. We want you to develop. But on the flip side of that, this is the question I have for you, Ryan. When you're getting hit as a quarterback and guys are running free, don't you get a little gun shy?
100%.
And if the same and what happens if the same guy picks you up three times in a row? How are you feeling about that guy?
hey, man, let me tell you, because my guys, I know when I played my line, I love my line, but they were all hurt.
Right.
Remember Big Ricky Perry? He didn't have any feet. He had surgery all the time, man. Yeah. Zev had no shoulder. Yeah. Like all my guys are hurt. Casey had bone on his knee. He played his butt off. Simonette can only hear out of one ear. So like we had a lot of stuff going on. So we were getting that's the reason why I really played, because Frank was getting destroyed. He was getting destroyed and he couldn't move. He couldn't slide really in the pocket and move up or do anything. And so that's the things I did. So but you get tired of getting hit, man. When you're getting hit like that, your reads get off. People like, oh, you had this guy open. Yes, but you're getting hit on a regular basis. So it's hard for you to trust the decision-making process.
Okay, so have you ever on the sideline gave an offensive lineman that look?
Listen, LT, you know how I am. I'm pretty good at like motivating people and everything.
Right.
They are doing the best they can.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? How you going to yell and scream at somebody who's doing the best they can? What are you going to get out of them then? They're doing the best they can. Now, if they were lazy and they weren't doing anything, I'd be like, man, you better get your whatever up and do it.
Right.
But, if you're doing the best you can, what am I yelling at them for? What am I going to say to him?
That's true.
But 3 times in a row.
He's doing the best he can. If he's doing the best he can, he's getting hit 3 times in a row. The coaches need to get his butt out the game. Put somebody else in. He's doing the best he can.
Okay.
That's true. Well, hey, Ryan, man, we definitely appreciate your time on the show. We also appreciate your quarterback knowledge, because we've been going back and forth with a lot of this stuff all year. To hear you talk about it, it really means a lot to us, man. And we appreciate you coming on, man. And we got to get on that golf course sometime, man. Hopefully you won't beat me too bad. All right.
Come on, man. Stop that, Lamar. You just don't get lucky the whole time and beat the mess out of everybody. So,
all right, my man. Have a great Thanksgiving. Say some turkey for me. All right. Tell Mo I said what's up.
All right. I hit you later.
Good seeing you, Ryan.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
It's interesting, those opinions. I mean,
Can't be much more blunt than that.
No, and I don't disagree with anything he said. I mean, that's the way I feel. But it's a very delicate topic of conversation. How much are you going to improve if you're not doing it as a true freshman? Are you going to be able to do it by your sophomore year? And if you're not doing it by your sophomore year, you're getting passed over because Lamar, they're not going to stop recruiting anywhere.
Yeah.
And
so I'm thinking, this freshman year was not expected for him to play this much.
no.
So he's been thrown out there. And I think this has all been a development for him. So now he's being thrown out there and he's not really ready. But I'm going to ask you this, Gary, because you saw him in the beginning. Do you think he's gotten better since you saw him in the beginning?
Yeah, I do. Because when I saw him at the beginning, Lamar,
right,
even those bubble screens that he was completing against Georgia Tech, a lot of those were going into the dirt and stuff. I mean, so yes, he has gotten better. And but you can't run an offense like that just throwing bubble screens. And we saw what Clemson was doing. They were teeing off on those bubble screens and blowing that stuff up,
Hey, those bubble screens are kind of sort of dear to my heart because, of course, the guy broke my record running 100 bubble screens. So let's.
I know, Gary. I don't remember Lamar Thomas running many bubble screens.
No, he ever did that.
We didn't have
the interesting thing is that this kid now in the offseason, let's see what he does. But I remember a month ago, we had this conversation about Gary said, don't burn his red shirt. And I said, burn his red shirt because there could be an upside to this. And now you kind of know. I'm not saying it was the right thing to do, but they kind of didn't have a choice.
Yeah, they didn't have a choice.
And now at least the kid has a little foundation. He's got a little confidence, as much as may have gotten taken away from him the other day. But still, I think this is a kid who feels if I work my ass off this summer, I could make something of myself. If he got redshirted, who knows what he's going to say.
And I'm not saying this is going to happen, guys. Don't be shocked if on December the 5th, he doesn't go to the portal and go to SMU and play in Rhett Lashley's offense.
Who are you talking about? TVD?
No,
Corey Brown.
Curry.
Wow.
Don't be shocked. TVD, I believe, is going to get a sizable NIL deal to come back to Miami and be the quarterback next year. That's what I'm expecting to happen.
But what I heard from SMU is that they already have a quarterback they have a high school kid that everybody's pushing that way. I don't know if he's there yet or he's coming in, that everybody is, that's the guy. Now, the thing that I'm worried about is the other guy, Jake Garcia.
I don't see him staying.
Yeah, because here's the thing that I heard. I talked to a friend of mine at another program, and they were very interested in Jake Garcia before he started playing. So that's the scary. Yeah, so no.
But he would find a home, Lamar.
Yeah,
there's somebody that would take a chance on him. I mean, his market value's gone down. He's not going to get $1 million NIL deal or anything like that. But there are schools out there, mid-level schools, that would take a chance with him, I think. And I am expecting him to go seek a fresh start. This has just been a disastrous year. I don't know how you bounce back from what he's experienced here this year.
And what if he comes in against Clemson and he does well? Are we still saying
he kind of started out like it was going to go that way?
To a big NIL, knowing he may need surgery.
You're breaking up, Bruce.
What'd you say, Bruce?
You locked up on us.
Bruce, your face is frozen.
Your face is frozen.
Let me take a picture of it.
Bruce, come back in and we'll get you back on.
Oh man,
I can put it back. Oh no,
he's going. Dang.
No, I'm sorry, Lamar. I didn't mean to do that to you. But Jake started at the beginning of his entrance into the Clemson game. It looked like he might get something going, but then it just went haywire. That strip sack was brutal, and
he might be gun shy, man. He might be gun shy a little bit, man. I mean,
he wasn't even, to his credit, he's looking down the field. He didn't even see that guy. I mean, now some people will say he should have seen him or he's supposed to see him. But
depends on where the protection was going. I mean, if it's a hot route, you got to get rid of that ball. You know, if you know that hot is coming, you got to know that hot is that blitz is coming from another side. You either turn the protection to that side, or you know that guy is going to come free. He's the free hitter. You got to get rid of it or move.
The problem Jake had was the offense got a lot more complex this year, and when his number got called, he wasn't ready. And if you're the backup quarterback, you need to be ready. Like you can't go out there against Duke and turn the ball over 5 times. You know, you can't come in against, like, I think it was Florida State, and have 2 turnovers in your first 3 plays. Like that's a career killer, man. Because now the coaches are afraid to put you in. They started them against Virginia. They win the game in overtimes.
Won, and he ran it in. And I'm glad he didn't throw it.
Yeah. But then Lamar, it was so shaky that they decided to give Jacurri the shot against Georgia Tech. You know,
I think they might be. I think at that point they were saying we just got to start preparing for the future now. You know,
just or at least get a look at what we've got, because we have to make these roster moves now, and we have to go into the portal, and we have to know what we have and where we are, and
give this guy an opportunity. You know, give him an opportunity to see what we have, and you know, because again, this portal thing is crazy. So
Lamar, I'm looking at an empty quarterback room a week from now. I'm looking at I'm assuming this TVD thing that they're going to give him a big NIL deal, and he's going to come back to be the quarterback next year with a revamped offensive line, a revamped offense, more playmakers, a fully stocked offense. Okay. That's what I'm expecting. Okay. I expect Jake Garcia to leave. I expect Peyton Matosha to get sent to the portal. And I think it's 50-50 whether Jacurri comes back. And then you've got Emory Williams, a freshman, coming in. So best case scenario, Lamar, you got Van Dyke, the freshman, and Jacurri if Jacurri stays. If Jacurri happens to go in the portal, you're sitting there with Van Dyke and a true freshman. And now you got to go look in the portal for a quarterback. Well, you're not going to get a senior quarterback because he's not coming in to back up Van Dyke, most likely. Yeah. You got to start looking now for a young quarterback in the portal that you can come in and say you come in for a year and then you compete with Emory Williams to be the quarterback in 2024.
Wow, that sounds like a walk-on to me.
Yeah, and or Jacurri, to part of that competition. There will be some young kids that
I hope like your choice. Right, I hope you're not right, man.
There's got to be, man. No, there's got to be some kid that's a freshman somewhere right now that I made a mistake. I don't like this program. I'm going into the portal. A lot of the stuff will be greased in advance. You know that, Lamar. And then you come into the Miami program, be a backup year 1, and then compete in the spring.
Man, that's going to be interesting.
This is going to be a fascinating offseason.
But, man, you got to have at least 3 quarterbacks.
I know.
We found that out this year. Yeah, you got. I mean, so I hope it doesn't happen that way, but if it does, it's going to be very interesting. Gary.
Very interesting. In the meantime, we got another visitor in the lobby. CP are his initials, and this is Mr. Charles Farms from Houston, Texas. How you been, Charles?
I've been good. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. We lost Bruce Warner. Something happened to him, but he'll be back.
Okay.
You know Bruce, right?
Yes. Yeah. Roomy, how you doing?
Roomy.
Oh, that's Roomy.
Roomy. So let me tell you something now. This man was my college roommate. My first, 3 years? What was 3 years? I think it was
3 years. 3 years.
We were roommates. Man, we got some stories, but we're gonna not try to tell all of them at this point. But Charles Farms, who came to school, Charles Farms III, CP3, and that, right? Am I correct?
You are correct.
First CP3 came to us from was it Madison?
James Madison High School.
Madison High School in Houston, Texas. I mean, with all the fanfare of leaving Texas, can you tell the viewers how did that happen? And don't keep Highsmith's name out of it now. He's working for the University of Miami now.
Yes, and I did see Alonzo at a couple of the practices and everything. The University of Miami attracted me because I love South Florida. I was playing on a grass field. I like the fact that the University of Miami is a private school, so the professor to student ratio is a lot better than state schools. I love the way the University of Miami played football. I love the way they played on defense. I love Coach Johnson and what they were doing. They had just won a national championship. Matter of fact, I'll admit also that Miami Vice is one of my favorite TV shows. So it all added into it. And then by the time I did go down there and I did go to the beach and go to South Beach, and it wasn't about looking around to see things on South Beach. But when I went in the water and I went all the way to my waist and I could still see my feet compared to here in Texas with Galveston, I said, yeah, I have to come here. But I mean, it was just, it felt really right. It felt really good. I mean, University of Miami, and that's the reason why I ended up choosing to go to University of Miami.
And what were the schools that you visited? What were the schools that you visited that were in the mix?
I visited UCLA, Michigan, Nebraska, and Oklahoma, and University of Miami.
Wow, Michigan, Nebraska, UCLA, big programs. Also, programs that I stole your shirts. That you had. I remember wearing all those shirts. Charles Farms. I'm gonna get to the first day of being on campus. Charles, my parents dropped me off. They had a tea time, by the way, and in rolls this Charles Farms fella with his bags, and I noticed this guy had designer bags, and I had my couple pair of jeans and underwear with my name on it, that type of deal. This guy had designer stuff. He had silk shirts, Gary. I had never seen silk shirts before. This man had silk shirt and pointed black leather shoes. I was like, man, you where you from again? He said, I'm from Houston, Texas. Okay. And so we sitting in the room, we just talking. I'm like, man, this dude here, man, he pretty put together. He's like, yeah, I'm probably gonna start as a freshman. Come on, man. Come on, bro. Come on, man. And I'm listening to this guy. I'm like, man, this guy got a lot of confidence. This guy does not know what he's getting himself into. But man, let me tell you something. As a freshman, that guy started. And being his roommate, getting to see all the things that he as far as, us as regular freshmen, we didn't have the same schedule as him, as far as, he had meetings and stuff like that. And I was always amazed to see how it kind of taught me what was going to be for next year, because watching him go through it and watching him be a starter as a freshman and playing and doing all the, and bringing us quarter pounders on Thursday night, or was it Friday night? Thursday night, after meetings, I was just amazed at, having to prioritize your time. And that's what I realized what college was really about, because everything is so structured. As being a student athlete, you have to do boom, 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 boom. It's not like your freshman year where you go to practice and then study hall and, then you're kind of free. This was like everything had to be in line. So for me to get to be his roommate and to see everything he was going through as a freshman, it kind of I was like, wow, okay, now I see it. And, he would come in sometimes. I've been hanging out or whatever, and he'd be like, hey, man, I got to study this book. I'm like, huh? Man, we got to study, man. That's the thing, man. If you're going to play, you got to study. And I was just always amazed. So it kind of, for him being my roommate, kind of turned me on to the whole thing of being successful, because that's what, again, our culture was. Everything was passed to him, and he kind of passed it on to us other freshmen because we got to see him play. That's your shout out, Charles.
I appreciate that, Rumi. But I mean, you do have to make adjustments. And, during those times, of course, Coach Johnson and everybody, we had itineraries. So, I mean, there were certain times you had to be certain places. And Coach Johnson, I mean, He was a coach to where if it was a meeting at 9 o'clock, you had to be there. If you were there at 8:51, basically you were late. So you had to be on schedule. We had different things that we had to do at different times. Like, of course, if we were going away on an away game, when you had to be, at the dorms and ready for the buses to pick us up and, get on the buses, go to the airport, get on the planes. And then when you get there, you have certain things that you have to do once you get off the buses as far as going to the stadium, being at the hotel. So everything was structured, and you ended up seeing right there what you had to do. And then, of course, our scouting reports, you had to go through that because it was helping you to get ready to face the opponent you were gonna have to face. And I will admit, Lamar, I didn't like the fact that when I came back, I wanted you guys to be, playing also. So it was, sometimes I couldn't tell about different stories about the games and going away and playing. Like say when came back on the University of Michigan, there in Ann Arbor and everything like that. But we had a great class, and I know you guys were great football players, and I see that every day in practice. So I knew it was a time that you guys were gonna play. And a matter of fact, he won't admit this, but me and Lamar started talking even before we got to University of Miami. I get this phone call. I'm like, hello? It's like, man, this is Lamar. I'm like, Lamar? So yeah, I'm gonna be your roomie. I'm like, oh, okay. So me and Lamar had a great relationship. We still have a great relationship. He is a true brother to me. But it helps you get in line with things you have to do. Like I said, it's right there in front of you. Like I say, things you have to do as far as your scheduling, and you have to abide to it, to adjust to it, and be successful if you continue with that schedule. And it's a things to do list, and you have to do them.
I got a guy that wants back in on the action here. He froze on us before you came on, but he's ready to.
CP, what's up, man?
Here.
I'm putting this picture up. You know what that is, right? That's me, the white guy on the left. Charles Mark Caesar, and Kelvin Harris. That's the
right there. Right there in Hollywood Beach, right?
No, this was near in Aventura, near me.
Yeah, Aventura Mall. Hollywood Beach. Well, Hollywood is right there. But yeah, I suddenly remembered. I sure appreciate that. That was a great meal. It was a great time.
I know. I took LT there. Gary, we know that place pretty well. So what's up? I heard you talking about you played as a freshman. That was incredible. Incredible.
And Charles, if I recall, did you go to Notre Dame when as a freshman when we had to fight? Were you there then?
Yes, I was there. I was there. I did. I did go to that situation. I was in that situation. Period. Yeah, I'll say it like that.
You did hit somebody, right?
Well, I just politely when everything started, I just grabbed somebody by their face mask and I just kind of pulled them to the side. That's all I'll say about that.
One of the things I really enjoyed about being a roommate with him was we challenged each other. We talked about our goals and what we thought we were going to do and what we wanted to do, and it was kind of cool to, him saying he was going to start as a freshman and getting to do it, and then I'm like, I'm going to break records, and we kind of challenged each other. But the thing that was crazy was on the field, we weren't roommates in practice, but as soon as we walked off the field, we were roommates again. It was some intense stuff going on out there at that practice field. And I think we always say this is why we were better on Saturdays, because we didn't see roommates, not during practice. But we saw as soon as we walked off that field, then we dapped up and went and ate lunch and probably had some adult beverages because we were over 21 at that point.
We had a lot of talent on the football team, but those are the things that made us a lot better because we did challenge each other in practice, offense versus defense. That's how it was. And we didn't want to get embarrassed, and the offense was definitely doing things to get better. So, even when the receivers and defensive backs for us one-on-one drills, everything like that. And even when we would sit and look over and they were doing inside running, different things like that. Practices were very, very hard. And it did make us all better. And yeah, once we get off the football field, we're college students. We're teammates and everything. We do whatever we do after that. But those practices really made us a lot better because we did force each other to play better because we would come in each other hard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every practice was like that. There was no letting up.
Hey,
It's funny that you say that because I think Gary and LT will admit this. Every former player we've had on this show or any of the other shows, they all say the same thing. You guys busted your ass, and that's why you won. That's why you were successful. I mean, if you want to talk about what's happening this year, we had CP, Gary, was on a post-game show during the season. I invited him. He came on. It was great. But what is your thoughts on what's going on in the secondary, what we've seen this year? Guys getting beat deep constantly, bad angles. That's correctable, isn't it? Or is it, if you don't have speed, recovery speed, I guess you're in trouble. But talk about what you've seen this year.
And wait, and before you say something, Charles, talk about communication in the back end as far as motions and shiftings and how you have to, they communicate in the back end.
I mean, first of all, what I ended up seeing when I did go to the Florida State game, first of all, you have to line up to be successful, even before the play starts. I mean, you have to line up to be successful. I mean, why give yourself a harder time if you if you're to the wide side of the field, maybe you need to line up a little bit closer to the sideline. If you have nothing to the other side, I remember a coach once told me, why are you lining up into nothingness? And also, I see no hand signals, and you have to be able to talk with each other. I mean, if you know two receivers are together, you're going to say that even beforehand to let the other defensive back know, if this guy comes to me, we're going to combo. So that means we're going to switch up. So I'll take the man coming to me, and you take the man that's going to you. And angles, I mean, football is about angles. It's about geometry. And taking the wrong angle can cause a lot of things. And if you're not that fast, why don't you line up a little bit deeper? I mean, then that gives you more time. And also, you got to be able to feel the receivers. You have to know, even like at free safety, there's 22 people on the field. You got to know where 21 people are. You know where you are, but you got to know where 21 people are at the same time. So, I mean, it's about lining up, and it's also about them guys communicating with each other. Communication is the key. I mean, I see the guys, like I said, they need to use more hand signals because a lot of times when you're in those crowds, you can't hear each other. But at least if you're paying attention to each other, I mean, you can put the hand signals out there, and that helps.
There was one play that I think it was Stevenson. He was playing corner, and the guy came up maybe 8, 10, 12 yards, and then he let him go by him because he thought there was help over the top, and there wasn't. How embarrassing. Gary remembers that play. It was only like 2 or 3 weeks ago. How does that happen? Is that because they're not communicating?
It's partially because they're not communicating. And, I mean, you got to know what the call is. You got to get the right call as far as what coverage you're in. And also, I mean, if you know you're the guy that's deep, like I said, safety, if you're the deep guy, you have to know. And you have to play deep. And also the corner, don't just open up and let the receiver run free. I mean, you know how fast he is. If you want to, if the man is coming by you, at least jam him or something like that. I mean, in the 4-3 defense, we had cover 2 was our base coverage. And first of all, you have to have confidence also in your corners. I knew that the corner was going to get that jam in that first 5 yards, and that helps out because you might have a guy coming down the seam and then you got the guy on the outside. So, I mean, it's communication. They have to communicate. You have to know.
But CP,
like, you just don't let men run just free also.
CP, when you played, how many calls would you say that you guys had, on a given game plan each week that you had to know going into the game?
2 and play it.
2 and play it. We had cover 4 and you had cover 3. I say 3, you cover 1.
Okay, these guys, they're playing. Kevin Steele's using a very small percentage of his defense this year, and I said to him this way: I said, Coach, how many? We were talking about signals and stuff, and I said, how many calls do your DBs need to know going into the game each week? The different variations of everything that you like to do, and I think he told me 106. and he's playing with, like, at best half of his defense.
I didn't know that. That's a whole bunch. That's a ton of information.
Yeah.
And that is why I think that we saw so many, mentals early in the season. The kids, especially in the NIL era now, they have money in their pockets. They're doing other stuff. They're not going home and studying this stuff every single night and stuff. And I mean, I think there's a correlation there. You would be able to comment on this better than me, but like I see a connection of the dots there.
I mean, that's a ton of information that they have to take in, and that's a ton of information if, say, they motion and you have to change your coverage. That's still a lot of information that you have to take in, and you have to know which coverage are we changing to.
That's where I see signals, Gary. I do see signals when there's guys moving in the backfield or receivers in motion. That I see, but other than that, I don't see it. And it's tough. Now, we have
variations now because offenses are doing so many different things, Bruce.
Yes, I know. Well, we had 4 bombs against us in the Middle Tennessee State game. Now they had some really fast wide receivers. So if you're the defensive coordinator, are you jamming these guys, or are you laying back? Because we laid back, it seemed like against Clemson, and they were slanting us to death. So it's like you can't win. It's like, how do you win? We don't have the speed in the secondary. So what do? A soft coverage? And hope they just make mistakes.
I mean, you can do soft coverage, but you still with soft coverage. If you're opening up the door, you're not trying to stop a receiver. I mean, passing is about throwing off timing. Yeah. And you're definitely not going to throw off any timing if you're letting the receiver just run free. I mean, that's why I love the fact that we did have cover 2 was our base coverage. Right. Like I said, no matter who was lined up where, I mean, we did have the linebackers to run underneath. If you had receivers in the slot and everything like that, it's just a ton of information. I didn't even know they had that many different calls and different signals as far as over 100. I mean, like I said, we had 4 base calls that we had, but we knew them like the back of our hand. Play those well, get those, play those well, and you'll be more successful than to try to throw all of that at these young kids at one time.
We also had linebackers who could fly, and this team doesn't have that at all. So it's a big difference. The guys you had and the guys you had up front in the trenches, it's not the same. We don't have those bodies. I guess my defensive steal is he could scheme all day long. Where's the talent? They don't really have that much to do what he really wants to do. So it's hard.
And he's dialed it back so much, Bruce.
Yes,
and he got to the point at Auburn, because he was there, I believe, 5 years or whatever, where everybody really knew everything, and he could run more stuff and put things in game plans every week than he can do right now with this team. But it's a lot more complicated, I know, than when Charles was playing.
Yeah.
Hey, Charles, I didn't even, I didn't know about nickel and dime, because we kept our guys in the majority of the time, the linebackers. I mean, and I can tell you this, those cover 2 corners were taught to disrupt your timing as you came off that ball, put hands on you. Yep. They're gonna make sure that you as safeties, you can survey a lot of other things, and those guys were not gonna get up on you too fast or get down that seam. So I mean, they definitely were taught, but like you said, you only had 4 or 5 calls, 106 calls, a lot of freaking calls, man.
Yep.
That's a lot of freaking plays, and on the offense too. Hey, Charles, I want you to, what's your bond? Well, I started by this. When you ran out the smoke for that first time, what was your feeling? I mean, like what was that like for you? That was the Florida State game. I think we ran out the same tunnel that day.
I mean, I can't explain it. First of all, I mean, we had Phil Collins. I could feel it in the air tonight. And just the electricity, I felt there was enough electricity in that stadium to light up the whole city of Miami.
That's a good comment.
I mean, the energy just coming out. I mean, and you do the pregame and the stadium's not quite full all the way. But when you come out of that smoke, I mean, you come out and it's like a lightning bolt coming through you. And also you can just feel all the energy there, and you're excited. You're ready to play, but you're still like in awe. I mean, would you say the same, Lamar? I mean, I was in a sense in awe, like, oh my goodness, this is big time, and this is a big game, and I mean, it's a rival game, but that feeling was unbelievable.
I mean, we both came out for the first time, but I mean, my mindset was entirely different than yours because you were playing that night. I was like, damn. I actually tried to get up there with Jimmy, and I kind of ran out and I went the wrong way. I went towards the left because I couldn't see when I came out the smoke. Didn't realize everybody was going to the right, so I kind of put on brakes and went to the right. But I remember that because I'm like, dang, I think I almost ran to the Florida State side. But it was just that whole atmosphere, that electricity. And I always told this story about being a freshman, talking to my dad, and him asking, hey, what do you think about the game? Because that was the game when they had Deion Sanders. He was a senior. And I said, man, they probably going to kill us, man. They had made the video. But getting in that locker room that day and watching those guys, the whole demeanor changed from that whole practice. I mean, to come out of that smoke and to see the looks in their eyes, I said, oh, shit, we own to something. Now I understand what it's about to be a Cane, because we went out there and kicked their butts. And it was definitely that home field advantage of the Orange Bowl. And you going to I don't even know, Hard Rock Stadium. How do you feel about that stadium? How do you feel about that atmosphere?
My nickname for the Orange Bowl is the House of Cane, because that's what you felt. You were right there within the neighborhood. You were in Little Havana. I mean, for me, the Orange Bowl, I mean, the electricity, I mean, the intimidation alone. Hard Rock it's a great stadium. It's a beautiful stadium, but it's kind of out. I don't think you can get the energy, as much energy as you could in the Orange Bowl. And the Orange Bowl is historic. I mean, so it's a bit different. Yes. Yes. So
sadly, yeah.
And Charles, tell me your greatest memory of being the Cane, man. What do you think your greatest memory was, and what do you think your best game was?
The greatest memory is the first time we won the national championship with you and I in '89 when we played in the Sugar Bowl. I mean, to wake up in the morning and to know you're part of the best college football team in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't pick out just one game because you got the Florida State game, the first game ever, 31-0. I mean, that's a great game. Then you have when Notre Dame had to come down and we beat them after the whole ground calls and a fumble the year before. I mean, that was a great game. And also my last game as a Hurricane there. I mean, playing Nebraska and basically beating them 22-0 to add on to another national championship, even though we tied with Washington, supposedly splitting that. But I mean, every game was great. So I can't really just point out one particular game. And all the games were the best games because I was there participating as a Miami Hurricane.
That's awesome.
What would you say your best game was?
Well,
you got a lot more. You set records and everything. So
I mean, I'm gonna talk about some of my greatest Charles Farms moments.
No.
Let's talk about.
He's been rehearsing all day for this, Charles.
Let's talk about.
I see.
Let's talk about the booze cruise that you made me go on before a scrimmage.
A booze cruise that I made you go on. There's no way I can make you go. I can't make you go on anything. I can't make you go. I can't make you go on anything. You are of age. You were past 21. Somebody ran it across me. So I told you, I mean, as a roommate, I'm like, man, room, you want to go on this? I didn't know anything about it. And then we ended up going on it, and it was something totally different. It was something totally different. And we both paid for it the next day.
God, Jesus.
Gee, what was it?
Oh man, it was. Oh man, we had a scrimmage that next morning. It was a lot of people in that huddle smelling like booze. I tell you that.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's a great memory. My first real spring break as far as taking a college trip. So we are coming back from the White House. We're going to the White House. And Charles, Jesse, and Kevin Williams, we took a road trip in 2 LeBarons, convertible LeBarons, to Texas. That was my first real spring break. That was the most awesome trip. We went to Houston. They went to Dallas. It was such an awesome trip. I've never been awakened with a 6-pack before in my life. That was the awesome trip, man. That's when you think of spring breaks, that was the coolest thing, because we I don't know how many hours it took us to get there, but I'm pretty sure we probably should have been arrested for the driving, the speeding that we were doing on that trip.
We did run across another car, and they had Notre Dame stickers on it. So we ended up seeing them, and we were kind of back and forth, sort of racing. I mean, we did get back from the White House and our whole national championship. I mean, visit to the White House and everything. I mean, the cars were already packed and we were ready to go. I mean, it was awesome that I had a chance to invite Lamar to come to Houston and everything. And I mean, it was a great spring break. And also, I mean, we had just won the national championship. So, I mean, we were walking around. We were champions. So, I mean, that added to it. And, I mean, me being able to bring him to Houston and him being able to enjoy Houston.
Enjoy Houston.
Enjoy Houston.
I enjoyed Houston. And thirdly, me and Charles Farm made a decision one Now, again, we had already won a national championship. We had been to the White House. We decided one morning after a night out, you know what, bro? Do we want to go back to the White House again? Fuck it. We'll go back. Bump it. And we didn't go. We turned down the White House trip. We didn't show up. I still think about that to this day. Like, what were we thinking, bro? We were going to the White House. We decided, you know what? Man, we went to that junk two years ago. We'll go next year. That was our mindset, man.
Well, that was my last chance to go to the White House. I mean, I was a senior. I mean, you had another year. Of course, it's a great team coming back.
Right.
We kind of didn't. I mean, that flight, we didn't make that flight. That's all I can say on that. But we had a few things that held us back also.
Yeah, yes, we did. Yes, we did, sir. Let's not speak on them. All right. Well, hey, man. Chucky P, the Grim Reaper. He had so many nicknames. Charles Goodnight Farms III. I mean, he carried around. He had a bear in the room, and the name of the bear was Goodnight. That was the name of the bear, Goodnight. And he had that bear sitting on his bed. I mean, we just had so many fun memories, man. I tell you what, Charles, to be honest with you, my college life probably wouldn't have been the same without you being my roommate, man. I had a lot of fun, man. I appreciate everything, man. Glad we had you on the show tonight, man. And you're a good dude, man. And I appreciate everything you did for me, and the fact you let me wear your silk clothes when I didn't have any, and I really looked like a superstar. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you taking care of the dry cleaning bills for those two. Thank you.
Well, first of all, the bear, Mr. Goodnight, it helps you sleep. I mean, and as far as you wearing the silk shirts, that's no problem. I mean, as teammates, we help each other out, so that was no problem. And you helped me during my college days also. I mean, great roommate, great brother, always. It was great seeing you when I was just down in Florida. And hey, it's always much love. It's always much love. And I'm glad we had the opportunity to be roommates, and we had a great college experience.
And we're not going to talk about when we almost beat up Michael Barrow. So, all right, man. Love you, brother.
We didn't fight outside of there. Was nothing about anything fight. Why are you bringing up these stories about fights and stuff like that? I know nothing about that. Selective amnesia. Selective amnesia.
Love you, brother. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming on, bro.
All right. Love you guys. Love you, bro.
Talk to you soon, man. Talk to you soon.
All right,
All
Charles.
right. Take care now.
He really wore silk.
Man, that dude, he had the best clothes in the building, man. That dude was, man, he came there suited and booted, as we called it, man. He had silk clothes, and I'm just a green old kid from Gainesville, man. I don't know about dressing up, but boy, when I got in that boy closet and I started getting some playing time, boy, you couldn't tell me nothing. You know what I'm saying? At first, I gotta admit, when I would go out, I wasn't dressing like that. But I got into his closet. Now his pants were a little too small for me, so I had to wear them down. I had to wear the shirt out and wear them down on my waist a little bit. You know what I mean? So high waters weren't in back then. So, but
he still dresses like that. He's still every day on Facebook. He's got a new outfit with the chains and stuff and the hats. He's still doing that. He's funny.
He's sharp, and I appreciate it, man. He made my life in Miami. I picked the right roommate because I damn sure ain't have no clothes and no style. So
Who's your other roommate? Who was your other roommate?
We had Michael Barrow and Carlos Etheridge, who ended up moving out, and Mike had a room by himself. So it would be me and Charles going at it with Michael Barrow all the time. And it was crazy because one time Mike, and I think I told this story before, he kind of deboed me into trying to cutting his hair. He said, "You gonna cut my hair?" I said, "All right, bro." So we was a party that night, and I cut his hair, but I left a circle in the middle. He looked like a Hare Krishna or something. And he went to the party, and everybody was like, "Hey, man, what's that in the middle of your head?" So he chased me all night long in the party. And I laughed. He said, "How much I owe you for this haircut?" "Nah, it's free, bro. It's free."
That is a funny story.
Oh, man. Hey, on that note, let's take a second and let's hear from our friends at Caneswear.
Welcome to Caneswear. Family owned and operated since 2010, Caneswear has all latest merchandise for the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Inter Miami Soccer, and more. Come visit us at our store in Davie on University Drive, just south of I-595, or online at Caneswear.com. Caneswear, the spot Miami fans shop.
So these guys on YouTube, Lamar, they're going nuts over here. So let me try to go down some of these comments and we'll give them some love.
Give Richard Hill some love, man.
I will. I'm going to go down, but let me start with this one. Rob Likens, Lamar. Miami-Dade 305 wants Rob Likens as the next OC at Miami. I would say that if Mario's going to change OCs, he has to shoot higher than that. Your thoughts?
Yes.
Well, first of all, I don't like to speak on. I did last year. I said it last year. I don't like to speak on guys when they're still in the building. The guy that's in there, Coach Gaddis. He's a man. He has a family. And does he deserve another year? I would say, yeah, give him another year. I mean, he has to evolve just like those players have to evolve. And, you paid the guy a lot of money. What are we just throwing away money now? Who are we? You're not giving a guy a true chance. Let him do his thing and see what happens next year. I mean, this year has been bad on all levels. Every position I could say, other than the punter and the kicker, so give those guys an opportunity. And let's see where it goes next year. And now he has to develop an offense. So you have no excuse. If you can't do it, then you're gone. But I like Coach Likens now. Likens my guy. I enjoyed the communications with him, just like I enjoyed the communication with Coach Gaddis. I think they're two very good wide receiver coaches. So, but I'm not going to speak on that because, again, I think the guy deserves an opportunity.
I've been the same all year. I haven't really wanted to go there. Obviously all the fans have been calling for Gaddis for weeks.
But it's like you're just throwing away money, man. I mean, like
a lot of money.
Who are we? You don't even know this guy's contract. I would say as a coordinator here at the University of Miami, it has to be, I would think, over $1 million. Okay.
I think it was 3 years, 1.5 per.
Yeah. I mean, so what are we just throwing it away? We just giving the guy free lunch? Make him earn it. Shit. I mean,
can we afford to do this again, Lamar?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's a good question.
Can we afford to do this
again?
again?
They afford to do this again if this is the real deal that you're going to get?
The money's nothing. They can't do this again.
To take that chance.
Yeah, you're right.
You can't. Can you or no?
I don't. I just don't. I just think
puts you in a bad place.
Yeah.
I know it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a tough one for me.
But that's a tough one. It's a tough one for anybody. It's a tough one for me. Like I see all the problems: O-line, receivers, quarterback getting hurt, quarterback not adapting to the offense early.
Play selection, scheme, red zone offense. It goes on and on and on.
Bruce, you're right too.
So do we get rid of Maribel? I mean, he's an excellent coach. It's just not.
He doesn't have the clay to work with to mold anybody. He's got guys that have been here for years that haven't done a damn thing. He's got a young kid that's playing here now. He got Zion Nelson hurt. You lost Clark for a while. You lose Rivers. What do you expect from him?
And I agree with everything you say, but everything that he's dealt with, Josh Gaddis has dealt with too. So this is not as black and white as everybody in the fan base thinks that this is. I mean, I see 9 yards of offense at Clemson in the first half, and to me that trumps who's playing at left guard. You know, that tells me this is a bigger issue.
I was going to ask Ryan, but I forgot because Ryan was a screen guy.
And it's beyond screens.
And it's not throwing screens when the pass rush is coming right at you.
It's beyond screens.
It's beyond me.
And it's beyond who's at left guard. Okay. When you only can put up 9 yards of offense.
It's a lot. It's a lot going on. It's a lot. So get those guys another year and we'll see where it goes. I mean,
I don't think they can afford it.
It's a tough decision for Mario.
Mario in here
because
he can't let this happen again.
Here's the thing that for Mario, he has to say I was wrong if that's the case.
Yeah,
okay. And a lot of coaches aren't.
Well, we know him. He'll say I was wrong. He's not afraid to admit he was wrong. He's not.
No, he's done it in the past, but I mean, he's in a better position than any of us are to know whether he's really right or really wrong. He's in there every day with these coaches.
Right.
I mean, he knows
can't be happy with this.
But he knows if it's really his fault, not his fault, I think. Well, all right, let's move on to this subject, which is a little bit easier to discuss. Lamar, Gus's dad says, and we've talked about how many players are about to be replaced, and it is almost half of the roster. He says that these guys knew that they were going to be pushed out the door at the end of the season, and they played like it. What do you think?
I think for a lot of those guys, it was an eye-opener, and they could use that as an excuse. When the building changes, when you go from doing it one way to it being a little tougher and you feeling uncomfortable, and it's not as easy as it might have been before, you can use it as an excuse and you say, oh, well, I because he was so hard or our practices were harder and, he was much more demanding. This is not the place for me. I think that a lot of those kids, it was pretty shocking, coming from, and I'm not talking bad about Manny, but I'm just saying, I just think it's a difference of a guy who had never been a head coach and a guy who had been a head coach. So, here it is. He comes in with his hammer and says, hey, this is how it's going to be. There's no negotiating. You're going to do it my way. And we're going to get this program back to where I think it should be. And I've seen it be that way. And if you're not with it, you can get the hell out of here. I think that's tough for some kids, especially some kids can't handle de-recruiting. You know what I mean? They can't handle, you're so nice to them when they, oh, so cool. What number I'm getting? I want number 1. Okay, bro, that's what you got, baby. And then they sign that deal. Okay, coach, I'm getting number 1. Nah, bitch, you getting 36. Okay. Oh man, I'm gonna cry to my mama.
Hey,
and the mama, oh, he promised me. He promised my son he was gonna have number 1.
Is that what you told him?
That's what happened, man.
He might have overbaked.
You did that.
There is no doubt about it.
When Jimmy got here, he had Oliver Dottie's defensive scheme, which he didn't like. So he didn't want to play bend but don't break. So he made the choice. You're out of here. You have to do that.
Again, Jimmy did not care, but it wasn't social media. It wasn't social media back then.
No,
but true. Jimmy told us, look to your left, look to your right. At least 9 of you fuckers won't be here next year. And
there's no question Mario may have overbaked it this year, but he knew what he was doing. He didn't care. He's setting, like you said, a foundation for years to come into how business is now going to be conducted in the University of Miami football program.
Why should he compromise, Gary? He's been successful. There's no reason to compromise.
He's not going to compromise. You'll never see Mario compromise on that. No, he will.
It's his way or the highway.
He will not compromise on that. And by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this. Manny Diaz is a candidate for the Broyles Award this year.
How about that?
And defensive coordinator of the year in college
football.
How about that, huh?
Again, like we talked about before, if he would have taken another job before the University of Miami job, at a lesser job like a Temple or a Rutgers or something like that, I really believe that the guy would be up for the University of Miami job in a couple years. But this was a job that he took, and it was just too much. He
putting a quarterback in the game that's not ready.
I mean, it's Randy. For Randy, the same thing happened.
Same thing.
To get that first job and you're getting it here?
Yep.
This ain't a job for a first-time guy, man.
But Randy didn't have the funds to get the people he wanted. He was really handicapped.
This job eats all these guys alive, man. It eats them alive. So Taj Mahal says Mario just needs to get more of his own players in there. We will see the jump we'd all like to see. Own players.
That's what
I always bristle a little bit at that phrase. His own players. Like, we've been going through this, Lamar, for 20 years. Okay. Everybody's been getting their own players, and their own players haven't been better than the old players. I think the level of evaluation needs to go up.
Well, he also has Alonzo helping him with the evaluations, and that's a big difference that these other guys never had. So he's got multiple sets of eyes on these kids.
Well, I can tell you this. With like you just said, with Alonzo in the building, you get a guy that knows how to evaluate talent. I think for a lot of these recruiters, and I can only speak on myself recruiting against Miami, it hasn't been, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, to not recruit Lamar Jackson until the end, it was like, what are you guys doing down there,
what are you
bro?
Thinking?
Why aren't you guys covering your bases? The guy, Central knew about him. He put on a show against Central the year before in the first half, and everybody's like, who the hell is this? This is they just have not or had not been doing their job. Now, I think with Mario, since one of his main focus is recruiting, I think they will be able to keep some of these kids down here. Obviously, everybody else, like, for example, let's say a guy that's a third or fourth guy on your recruiting list. He might be a 1 or 2 guy somewhere else. We're not going to be able to get him, especially if it's an NIL deal for those guys, So, but I think as far as recruiting wise, Mario, he really cares about recruiting. He loves it. It's something that he hangs his hat on, and he wants to get the best guys. And now they just have to continue to develop guys.
Yeah.
It's one thing to recruit these guys, but that kid Kamari, he's a good athlete. I watched him play last year at Lake Gibson. Maybe he's gotten better this year, but that guy, it's like me or Ryan McNeil as freshmen out there playing. You can't expect him to go out there and be a world beater as a freshman. He has to develop. He has to get stronger. He has to understand what college is about. And as a freshman, the world is moving fast.
Yeah, and he needs to get stronger. That kid's rail thin. He's rail thin. And Gary had I don't know if Gary was a poster or somebody made a comment. about Alonzo talking to this 6'6" wide receiver it's in the portal now.
Yeah, that was our story.
He was in awe of talking to Alonzo.
Yeah.
That's what you need. He was in
had
awe of it.
We had that story today on Kane Sport.
Yeah.
In the meantime, the Revenge of Charles Farms. Okay, look what popped into. Look what popped into our chat here.
Wow.
There was a few of those I saw.
Don't click on that. The whole
Charles has to have something to do with that.
Hey,
after all the teasing that you gave him tonight.
Yeah, I didn't tell the whole truth on Charles.
I'm sure you didn't.
Don't click on that. It might shut the whole show down.
Your buddy Crown Writer, he says the tight ends have been disappointing. He wishes Brantley had played more. Brantley is probably going to end up in the transfer portal.
Yeah, he's going to be in
you got 3 top shelf tight ends coming in and recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
You got Skinner coming back. You got Arroyo coming back. I don't see a place for Khalil Brantley. If he's smart, he's the first one in the portal, in my opinion.
Right.
I hope he's getting good advice.
Of Rooster, or you don't want to name names. You just did, but
Cran also wants to know who he thinks the quarterback's going to be next season. I think it's going to be Tyler Van Dyke.
I agree. LT, what do you think? You agree?
I think this kid is going to go out there and win this, play well in this pit game, and it's going to be a great battle for quarterback next year.
Jakari?
Yes. You notice I stopped short of saying he was going to win.
Is Van Dyke out, or we don't know yet, Gary?
We don't know yet. Yeah, we don't know. I'd be shocked if he plays.
You said that. You told me. Yeah.
I mean, I'm watching him flip medicine balls 4 days ago. So Rashad Mitchell is making the point that we've talked about all year, Lamar. Mm-hmm. Do these NIL deals take the hunger away from the players to put in the extra hours, to put in the time with their playbooks at night to be great?
I'm not there. I'm not one of those kids, but I can only speak on just hypothetically, it's just a different, as I talked about us being so hungry together, trying to figure out how we were going to eat the next meal, what we were going to do after we worked out, and anybody had a deal on something. We were just so much together. It was so much togetherness. And I would think, and again, I'm not there, but these kids have theirs now. So they can split apart. They don't have to be together. They can go with their IG girlfriends, to their condos, and they can go this way and that way. They don't have to be together. I just think that's what's what has torn college football apart, especially, again, I'm not in the locker room, but I can only imagine, and especially if you're losing, guys are just probably on their own now.
Wouldn't you think that, just hypothetically, but I'm just thinking out loud, that the NIL deals would have a negative impact on Mario's ability to recruit, because he could do a great job and somebody comes in with another $500,000, he loses the kid.
Yeah.
In the past, that would probably never happen with him.
Well, no more. It's not about the mouthpiece anymore. And especially with parents driving some of the wagons, these parents, hey, we got to get the most money we can get. And so the kid is forced to go somewhere where, he probably not going to play, but the parents and everybody else is going to get taken care of. So it's just a sad thing of college football.
Yeah, I think Mario and his staff is doing a hell of a job getting the.
They are. And if they can hold on to these kids, man, it's going to be awesome.
And they've had a lot of parents on campus this year, more than I've heard about in a long, long time. And that's why it appears to me that these kids that have already committed, they're going to stick. And they think the whole family's involved with this.
Well, families are involved at all levels, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a different world right now.
Yeah.
Maybe change NIL deals to production incentives. Is he onto something, Lamar?
I already told you my thoughts on the NIL. If I could pass, if I was the president of the NCAA, I would come in and say, all right, darn it, all you guys that got your NIL deals, you keep them. But from now on, here's how it's a new sheriff in town. And this how I'm gonna run it. Do-do-do-do-do-do. All right. So if Joe Smo gives you $500,000, it goes into your account, but you can't touch it until you graduate. And if you transfer, it goes back to Joe Smo.
Well, that's an interesting idea too.
That's an incentive,
man.
But based on what Crayon's saying here, man, Luther was onto something, man. With his old school pay for play, you know.
Yeah, that was old. That was a long time ago. It wasn't that big of money. It wasn't that big. It was just a couple dollars here and there. But you know, I just feel like
not the bounties. Those bounties were a little bit better.
Well, I was on offense.
You were on offense.
We had crap block bounties, but you know, they wasn't as lucrative as the big play bounties.
Just knocking out the rocket.
But understand this. You had to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the deal. If you think about
how many did you lose in that area?
This is what I found out as I went to the clubs in my silk shirts. That were Charles Farms. When I walked around, I would see certain gentlemen, and they would have entourages, and they would say, "Lamar Thomas, what's up, baby? Great game." I'm like, "Yeah." They like, 2 touchdowns, bro. I'm like, "Yeah, man. Man, I won 50 stacks on y'all today. That's 50 grand." I'm like, "Dang." It's like, "You good?" I'm like, "Nah." Here you go. Boop, 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 boop. Thank you, sir. When you win, they gave you stuff because they won a lot of money betting on you. So the money that was given out, at some point I told my parents, hey, they were sending me $50 every month. I told them, y'all can keep that. I'm making plays now. Keep that money. Save that on gas money coming down here to see me. Because the more you won and the more plays you made, people, you know, they bet on you and they enjoyed giving you part of the process. And I enjoyed it too. And I thank all those people.
Yeah, I'm sure you enjoyed it.
All right, Bruce, closing thoughts from you?
Win on Saturday at all costs. I don't care what it takes.
Yes.
Play hard. Don't just throw in the towel. And if we make a bowl game, that'll be great. And I think, and then I just want to win. I can't stand. I wouldn't want to be in this offseason 5-7, LT. I just don't want to hear it. I want 6-6, and a bowl game is a lot better than 5-7 and no bowl game. And then let's trust Mario to make the right decisions and go from there. I guess if we're going to do a show next week,
we will.
Do some real final parting shots because we'll know what the record was. But happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Happy Thanksgiving to the Canes fans. Be safe, and we'll see you guys Saturday. LT,
all right, Bruce.
your man.
All right, Bruce.
Gary, I'll talk to you later. As
You
always.
got it, man. All right, LT. I'm sitting here trying to think what I should throw at you word association wise tonight. Let me start with Pat Narduzzi, the coach of Pitt, coming in here, trying to ruin the Miami Hurricanes season worse than it's already been ruined by taking away a bowl berth. What are your thoughts on the state of the Pitt Panther football program?
Well, I think for Pitt, this will be a nice feather in the cap. You know, they've always tried to come down and get a couple Florida kids here and there. And they've had some good success getting some kids out of Florida, some speed guys. But this will be great for that program to be able to, anytime you get a team on the ropes and this game means that they're not going to go to a bowl game, it's always a beautiful thing. I had that happen a couple of times when I was at Louisville crushing Kentucky, and they were like at 5 and whatever, and they couldn't get that last win. And it was so awesome because you could just see the looks on their face, and you knew that you were going to get your bowl check, and they were. So it's something. I mean, it means something to you. I mean, they're not trying to be mean, but you know, this could be good in recruiting. The state, you know, you get players from down here and say, dang, that's right, Pitt beat them. Let me go check them out. So, I mean, it's good for Narduzzi and those guys, and they've always played hard. But this is a game that I'm pretty sure they're saying to their players, we have a chance to make them go fishing early. Let's
No
go.
doubt. Now, I'm gonna go a little outside the box here.
All right.
And you played what, I think 8 seasons in the National Football League, so you're gonna be able to relate to this a little bit. If I say cut day, because that is what is upon us at the University of Miami. Cut day is coming up. This is the last exhibition game for everybody that wants to be on the team moving forward here Saturday. And then we are going to have cut day. Your thoughts if I say cut day?
Well, I mean, if you put it that way, I mean, I guess it is. Obviously, some of those guys have already cut themselves and they're out the door anyway. And some of these guys are auditioning for a spot on the team. And, this game has some there's a lot of underlying things that are going into this game, not only trying to get a win, but for some of these kids, this could be their last moments at the University of Miami. And for some of them, it could be a chance for them to save that opportunity to stay at the University of Miami. So it's a big game. I mean, you get in the bowl game, now you got 15 extra practices to get better and to evaluate talent even more. I mean, it means the world to you. It means more than packing up your stuff and not doing anything. So this will be big for the University of Miami. I don't care where the bowl game is. It's just getting those extra practices.
Yeah, and it might not be 15 because I think they'd be playing on the 17th. So it might only be like 6 or 7, but still, they're significant, and it means something to go to a bowl game.
Man, you hurt my heart to know that we got to play that early if we win.
Oh, we're playing early if we go, man. That Fenway Bowl that wants Miami is the 17th of December. Lamar.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. I'll still be here. I won't even be going to the XFL yet.
When you got to the end in the NFL, did you get cut?
My end was,
or was it injury?
I was injured, and was it the hip? Yeah, and then they once that didn't. I had a 2-year deal, and it was the end of my 2-year deal, and he didn't renew my contract. So for me, it was like I played out that contract, and that was it.
So he indirectly cut you.
Yeah, indirectly, yes.
As a player, what did that feel like? What will these kids that are going to be told you don't have a future at Miami, what are they going to feel like?
Well, being a coach, I've had to do that I've had to do it in the AAF to cut someone, and I've had to tell a young man that he should probably transfer in college. I mean, it's a tough deal, man. But what you try to do is you try to go up under your desk and pull out the folder and give them the reasons why. To let them know that it's not personal. It's just that you couldn't do X, Y, and Z. These are things that you couldn't do well. And pretty much of it was on you. It's not. I take my personal feelings out of it. I like you as a kid, but you couldn't go to class. You didn't go to class. You didn't make good grades. You missed practice. You did this. You did that. Production-wise, you were inconsistent. I didn't know what guy was going to show up. So I couldn't play you that much. And then on top of that, you were a locker room lawyer. So, I mean, these are all things that shoot to you saying that you need to go find another place, my man. I mean, and nothing against you, bro. We can text and be friends, but unfortunately, you got to go. And in the AAF, just like this league, it's, hey, you just weren't getting the job done, man. Maybe there's an opportunity for you somewhere else, but you just weren't getting the job done. But that doesn't mean you're a bad player. Maybe you just need a different start. That's it.
And at the University of Miami, we can't keep going 5-7 and 6-6.
No,
we got to get better than this. I want to throw something up on the screen here. This is Randall Thrill Hill this week commenting on parents, and he's referring to a couple parents that made comments this year about coaches and on Twitter and stuff like that. And he says parents of Miami players should drive by the practice field during off season when it's 90 degrees out and see if your child is grinding from 11 to 6. Your thoughts on parents getting involved on social media and commenting about coaches? The two that did it this year, I think there's a great one is already gone. One, the kid's already removed himself from the program, and he's not going to be, and that's Keyshawn Smith, number 5, and he's not going to be a player for Miami anymore. The other one is Kamari Rogers, whose dad came real hard at Coach Adai after he traveled to the Georgia Tech game and didn't get to see his son play. And Mario's response to that was, if you're a parent and you have a problem with your son's playing time, you are welcome to come and pick him up.
I've said this.
Where do you come in on all this?
Gary, I've said this before as a coach. I always told my players, if your parents want to talk to me, they can talk to me about who you are and how well you're doing or how well you're not doing as a person, and we can have that conversation. But I am not going to talk about playing time. What I will do, they can come by here anytime and watch practice, and I'll even send them tape. And I think I really shouldn't have to do that because you know the reason why you're not playing. You know you're not good enough. So I tell them, don't call me. I have nothing to say to you about that. I just want to talk. I'll talk to you. You know what? He's doing great in school. Man, I sure wish it could correlate, or he's doing awful in school. I'm just going to talk to him about who he is as a person, but I'm not talking to you about playing time. And that was just my thing. These parents nowadays, that's what they're into. My parents, I don't even know if they ever talked to my position coach, because there was really nothing to talk about. You just show up to the games and I'll tell you, if I'm to be playing, I'm going to be playing, but it's just a different age, man. Because of social media, these people feel like they can say whatever they want to say to you. It's out there. They just feel like they can get close to you now. And it's a different age, man. Anybody can say anything to anybody with the social media now and have no repercussions. They can go under an assumed name and say whatever they want to say about you. And it's just a different age, Gary. This is a scary age.
Craziness. And let me finish tonight with Mario Cristobal.
Mario, again, I know this hadn't been the year you wanted, but silver lining to it, you can win this game and go to a bowl game, get a couple more practices, or you can start the cut day process, and try to rebuild this thing. But the most important thing I think about this whole cutting process and all this is that you're going to have to build a culture. You're going to have the right culture in that locker room, or you're going to end up being the same. I don't care who you bring in. If they're all not together, they're not a team. As soon as negativity happens, they're going to all go to certain ways, and it's going to be the same thing over again. So somehow, some way, he's going to have to bring in the right guys with the right foundation, keep the right guys that understand and know what his visions are as far as how he wants to run this team, and they pass it along over the team.
Very well said. All right, LT, well, happy Thanksgiving to you and the family.
Yeah, I'm about to eat me some turkey, baby.
I was going to say, I know your mom's over there down the road cooking away, getting ready for the big feast tomorrow. We want to wish everybody watching a happy Thanksgiving, and thank you for joining us for the show. We want to thank our sponsors, Caneswear, big Black Friday specials. Lamar told you about them earlier. If you didn't hear about all of that, just get yourself to caneswear.com the next few days.
40% off on hurricane stuff.
Off hurricane stuff. So great time to take advantage of that. Law office of Christine Rosendahl, Esquire, PA, 561-512-6199. Christine Rosendahl, ESQPA at hotmail.com. The lady with the black card that will get you out of jail if you're ever in a bind. Not a bad thing to have in your wallet. Give them a call. Tell them that Lamar sent you, and that you want one of those black cards, just like Lamar. We will be back next Wednesday night with the next edition of the Lamar Thomas Show. So we will see you guys then. Until then, I'm Gary Ferman. He's LT. Go Canes. And hopefully we'll see a bunch of you guys at the stadium on Saturday. Good night, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.